What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. Today, I'll be talking about 2025 NASCAR sponsor silly season once again. I'm going to go through every major change that's happening in regards to sponsorships moving places for 2025. So anyways, let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. Let's begin by talking about WeatherTech. It was announced on October 6th of last year that WeatherTech will be sponsoring Shane Van Gisbergen and Connor Zilch for a combined 36 races in 2025. Most of those races, they will be with Shane Van Gisbergen for around 20 or 21 races throughout the season, as WeatherTech will up their work with SVG they've done over the last year or so, and they'll work with Connor Zilch also in 2025. Next, let's talk about FedEx, as it was announced at the end of last year that FedEx would not be returning to NASCAR and will be leaving Joe Gibbs Racing. After being with Joe Gibbs Racing over the course of the last 20 years at this point, going all the way back in 2004 or 2005, they no longer will be working with Denny Hamlin and Joe Gibbs Racing heading into the 2025 year after being with the company and having a lot of good paint schemes over the years at Joe Gibbs Racing. Next, it was confirmed in the middle of November that Kroger would be joining RFK Racing in 2025, and they'll sponsor for every single race across the board for Brad Keselowski, Ryan Preece, and Chris Buescher. I do expect that Ryan Preece is going to pick up a majority of those races, as Kroger has been aligned with Ryan Preece for a very, very long time, even though I do think there's a really good possibility that Keselowski and Buescher are going to get a ton of races, even though companies like Solomon Plumbing and some of the other companies that work with the team will sponsor the team as well. Next, it was confirmed that Love's Travel Stop will be sponsoring Todd Gillen for a ton of races in 2025. The number of races were not disclosed when they announced it in the middle of January, I believe, but good to see that Love's Travel Stop will continue working with them, especially with the lawsuit going on. There was talk of them maybe leaving with the lawsuit, so they'll continue working with Todd Gillen in 2025. Next, it was confirmed last month in early January that Amazon Prime will be sponsoring Chase Elliott in 2025 for 3 races. They'll sponsor him at Kansas, the All-Star race, and I believe also another race at Darlington earlier in the season as well at Talladega Super Speedway. Amazon Prime will be looking to try to promote their brand as they join the NASCAR Cup Series this year, as they'll have some broadcasting deals and will broadcast 5 races in the NASCAR Cup Series in 2025. Next, it was officially confirmed that Kings Hawaiian will not be returning to RFK Racing in 2025. Instead, it was confirmed earlier this week that Kings Hawaiian will be joining Joe Gibbs Racing for the 2025 season, as they will sponsor Denny Hamlin for 4 NASCAR Cup Series events. While Denny Hamlin's still looking for some other sponsors going into the 2025 season, it's good to see that the Kings Hawaiian rules will stick around in the sport and work with Joe Gibbs Racing in 2025. Next, let's talk about Geico. It was confirmed that Geico will no longer be in NASCAR at the end of last year. They've been a entitlement sponsor with NASCAR going all the way back in 2018 or 2019. They, of course, worked with the Germain Racing team for a very, very long time. They will no longer be a part of the sport. You're probably not going to see many of those Geico commercials going forward. They're no longer existing in NASCAR. It was confirmed in the middle of last year that Hooters will no longer be at Hendrick Motorsports. There was a lawsuit between Hendrick Motorsports and Hooters due to them having missing payments. They were a patch on the car, and I think they had a little bit of a patch on the side of the car at the end of last year. But because of missing payments, there was a lawsuit that happened, and Hooters is no longer existing with Chase Elliott. At the beginning of Chase Elliott and Hendrick Motorsports going all the way back to 2016 or 2017, they no longer exist in the sport, and they will no longer be sponsoring Chase Elliott in 2025. Next, it was confirmed that Moneyline is no longer listed on the 23XI Racing website, and it also looks like Moneyline will no longer be sponsoring 23XI Racing in 2025 when you take a look at the production days. They joined up with Kurt Busch and Bubba Wallace in 2022 after being with Team Penske. It seems like Moneyline at this point might have dipped away from the sport. They're no longer sponsoring 23XI. It's unclear if they'll be sponsoring another team in 2025. The same thing goes for Dr. Pepper. They're also no longer listed on the 23XI Racing website. I know there's been talk about with McDonald's. They have a really good working relationship with McDonald's, that being Dr. Pepper. But Dr. Pepper was not there during production days. They were not on the jackets in the suits. So I think it's a very good likely chance and possibility that while Moneyline's gone too, I think Dr. Pepper also may no longer be in the sport as a whole. One sponsor that will be joining 23XI Racing in 2025, however, is Terribles. They will be joining 23XI Racing because, remember, Riley Herbst will be joining up with the team in 2025 on a full-time basis. Terribles is a gas station brand that is owned by Riley Herbst's family, who, of course, has had off-road background for many, many years. They joined up with Riley Herbst in 2025. It was officially confirmed a couple weeks ago that friends of Jacqueline will be joining the Haas factory team to sponsor Sheldon Creed for majority events in 2025. I don't think it'll be every single race for Sheldon Creed. I expect some other companies that work with Ford to work with Sheldon Creed through 2025, but they will sponsor Sheldon Creed in the 2025 season. It was confirmed near the end of last year that Harrison's will be sponsoring Jeremy Clements for 4 races in 2025. Harrison's been closely aligned with Josh Berry in Junior Motorsports over the course of the last couple of years, so it's definitely a little bit of shock to see that Harrison's is leaving Junior Motorsports, it seems like, and they'll be working with Jeremy Clements in the 2025 NASCAR Xfinity Series season. It was confirmed a couple weeks ago that Zepp will be sponsoring Noah Gragson for a couple races in 2025. Zepp sponsored Noah Gragson and I believe Chase Briscoe and Eric Almirola over the course of the last couple years at Stewart Haas Racing. They joined up for around 2 or 3 races in the 2025 year, and they could also sponsor other drivers at Front Row Motorsports as well later this season. Same thing goes for MillerTech. It was announced that MillerTech will be sponsoring Noah Gragson for 2 races in 2025. MillerTech was an associate sponsor for Noah Gragson at Stewart Haas Racing and also, I believe, an associate sponsor for Michael McDowell and Todd Gillen. They'll be working with Noah Gragson for a couple races. I think Michigan was mentioned. I think Dover was mentioned as well. They joined up for 2025 with Noah Gragson. It was confirmed a couple weeks ago that Minor will be sponsoring Carson Osfar for around 3 or 4 races in 2025. Minor worked with Josh Berry over at Stewart Haas Racing. I think they closely align with Rodney Childers a little bit and are closely aligned with the SHR branding. I think they're coming over because they like Rodney Childers a lot. So Minor sticks around and will go over to Spire Motorsports to sponsor Carson Hocevar in the 2025 NASCAR Cup Series season with Carson. Next, it seems like Mavis Tire will no longer be at Joe Gibbs Racing. Mavis Tire joined Joe Gibbs Racing in 2023 to sponsor Denny Hamlin to cover some of the loss that they've had over the course of the last couple years with FedEx leaving. They were listed on Denny Hamlin's website recently, but that could just be a personal service deal. So it seems like Mavis Tire no longer will be working with Denny Hamlin in 2025 in the NASCAR Cup Series, which is a big loss, even though they do have the Kings Hawaiian brand coming in this year. It looks like Mavis Tire no longer will be working with Joe Gibbs Racing and Denny Hamlin in 2025. Next, let's talk about Aand. It seems like Aand may be returning to NASCAR for the first time in almost a decade and sponsoring Front Row Motorsports in 2025. They've been spotted on Todd Gillen's fire suit along with Sonny D. There's been some question about this company coming back. Aand was in NASCAR in the mid-2010s and early and late 2000s as well. They look to be coming back to the sport and sponsoring Front Row Motorsports in the 2025 season. It looks like the Dex Imaging will be sponsoring Josh Berry in 2025. Dex Imaging was spotted on Josh Berry's fire suit. There were some questions whether Dex Imaging was going to stick around with the Wood Brothers this year because of how closely aligned they are with Harrison Burton. It seems like they really like Team Penske as a whole, which is why it looks like Dex Imaging will be working with Josh Berry once again in 2025 in the Cup Series. Next, it was confirmed earlier today that Bastard Shops will sponsor Chase Briscoe for every single race in 2025. This is very rare nowadays. Back in the 2000s and the 90s, you had full season sponsors like when GM Goodwrench sponsored Dale Earnhardt or Home Depot sponsored Tony Stewart for every race or DuPont sponsored Jeff Gordon for most events. Now Bastard Shops will be sponsoring Chase Briscoe for every single race. So Chase Briscoe won't have to worry about finding sponsorship funding over at Joe Gibbs Racing this upcoming year. Pretty incredible. The Bastard will work with Chase Briscoe for every single race in 2025. That means that Mahindra will not be following Chase Briscoe over to Joe Gibbs Racing in 2025. There have been rumors about Mahindra being a potential landing spot for them in 2025 for Front Row Motorsports. However, I'm not sure if they're going to go to Front Row in 2025 at this point because they were not spotted on the back of Noah Gragson's hauler. So could they potentially work with Todd Gillen or Zane Smith? That is certainly possible, or could go to another team or just leave the sport altogether, or maybe they go over to RFK Racing like they were rumored at one point to be going there. We'll see what Mahindra does in 2025. It was confirmed yesterday officially that SAIA will be joining Joe Gibbs Racing for 8 races in 2025, sponsoring Ty Gibbs. They will be the freight line company that basically replaced FedEx, who of course no longer exists over at Joe Gibbs Racing this year. They'll sponsor Ty Gibbs in around 8 races in the 2025 year, and the car, in my opinion, does look really, really good. Next, it was confirmed about a week or so ago that Rush Truck Centers will sponsor Noah Gragson for around 8 or 9 races in the Cup Series in 2025. This paint scheme had been leaked a few weeks ago. Prior to this announcement officially happening, I gotta say the Rush Truck Centers number 4 car does look absolutely incredible, and it's good that they're gonna be sticking around in the sport. A lot of the SHR sponsors, of course, did follow Noah Gragson over to the front row team for 2025. They will work with Noah Gragson this year. Next, it was confirmed early this week that Rubble Bourbon will be back to sponsor Richard Childress Racing in 2025 and Kyle Busch for this season. Kyle Busch also might have picked up a new sponsor for Cenex for this season. Rubble Bourbon's first race will be a Circuit of the Americas. I think they're going to sponsor Worldwide Technology Raceway or Gateway as well, but they're back to sponsor Kyle Busch in the 2025 NASCAR Cup Series year and Cup season. However, it looks like Threei will not be back with Richard Childress Racing. Same thing with Zone as well, as they're no longer listed on the Richard Childress Racing website, as they still haven't even updated the website yet for 2025. Threei has been with RCR since around 2021 or 2022. The Kyle Busch schemes have looked really good the last couple years. They were only sponsored Kyle Busch for one race last year at Phoenix, and I gotta say the car did look really good, even though Kyle really struggled in the event, but Threei might be out of the sport as a whole. It was confirmed a couple days ago that Red Bull is back in the NASCAR Cup Series for the first time in over a decade and a half. They will be sponsoring Trackhouse Racing in 2025. Shane Van Gisbergen will be sponsored by Red Bull for 5 races in the 2025 season, and Connor Zilch will make his NASCAR Cup Series debut with the number 87 Chevrolet at Circuit of the Americas. SVG's schedule will begin at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. I think I saw the Chicago Street Course. I think I saw a believe Dover, if I'm not mistaken, and Daytona as well on his schedule. But Red Bull, for the first time in many, many years, is back in the sport. Pretty awesome to see they're coming back to NASCAR in 2025. One company that I don't expect to be back, though, in 2025 is M&M's. There was a helmet that was leaked earlier today during production day, but Todd Gillen did confirm that this was an old helmet that he had when he was at Kyle Busch Motorsports. I'd love to see M&M's come back to NASCAR. It'd be cool to see the M&M's brand make a comeback, but let's be real and honest, they're not coming back to NASCAR currently at the moment right now. I think the Mars company's pretty much done as a whole. It was just an old helmet, so I hope people don't get their hopes up, but I would love to see them make a comeback down the road in NASCAR. Next, let's talk about Raising Cane's. Raising Cane's will sponsor Tony Breidinger for quite a few races in the 2025 Craftsman Truck Series season. Raising Cane's sponsored Tony Breidinger, I believe, for around 4 or 5 races last year in ARCA, and they're working with her for quite a few races this year. They got a huge following around her, and they've been working with her very, very closely this last year or so, and I gotta say the truck they've revealed looks really, really good. But Raising Cane's will work with Tony Breidinger in the 2025 year. And finally, it was announced early today that Grizzly Nicotine Pouches will sponsor Ty Dillon for 9 NASCAR Cup Series races in 2025, including in this year's Daytona 500. This is in association with the R.J. Reynolds company, which, of course, R.J. Reynolds is known for having the Winston brand that was the full season sponsor for the NASCAR Cup Entitlement brand from 1971 to 2003. They will sponsor Ty Dillon in 2025. So, that is going to be it for the update on 2025 NASCAR sponsor silly season. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, notifications on, so if I win a video, it does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on Patreon as well. Let's go below that and comment your thoughts below on today's episode. What are your thoughts about all the sponsor changes that have happened for 2025? Let me know them in the comments below. If there's any other major news that does break this week, and we'll discuss here live on the channel. If not, the next time you're going to see me is when I do the review for the Rolex 24 at Daytona, and expect a Shane Van Gisbergen video to drop after that concludes as well, unless, of course, he goes to victory lane, which I think is going to be very difficult. We'll also be talking about people like Haley Deegan, Carl Edwards, Kurt Busch, Kyle Busch, Bubba Wallace, you name it, Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott again, Alex Bowman, Chandler Smith, Eric Almirola, Frankie Muniz, Cletus McFarland, Matt DiBenedetto, Carson Quaffle, Jr. Motorsports, the lawsuit with Michael Jordan, all that good stuff. We'll be talking about that here on the channel. And Sammy Smith, Sam Mayer, Chandler Smith, all this stuff will be coming out really soon on the channel. So anyways, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's episode, and I'll see you guys next time for more great, awesome NASCAR content and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.